Hi everyone, this is Nicole Dyer, and welcome to the Research Like a Pro with DNA question and answer series. Today's video focuses on Airtable, and Diana shared this back in February of 2026, right after we released the new 2026 Airtable template for Research Like a Pro with DNA. And the main reason for changing and updating the base was introducing a better way to track how much DNA is shared between two matches of a test taker. And since Ancestry's new enhanced shared matches, Pro Tools shared matching, allows you to see how much a shared match shares with another match, it makes it so that you can enter more data into your Airtable base about how much these pairs are sharing. So it kind of made sense to change some of the ways that we refer to people in the Airtable base. So Diana's going to walk you through how that works. And if you haven't tried the new 2026 Airtable base, maybe you'll be ready to try it now.
So since we have a brand new Airtable template for 2026, I shouldn't say brand new, it's an updated version. Much of it is the same, so you will not see a lot of changes, but I thought it would be nice to go over some of the changes that are there. And Nicole wrote a great blog post about this, so you can go open up her blog post and go through the new template and learn all about it. But I am just going to highlight some things, illustrate with some slides to help you understand why you might want to make a change over to the 26. And after I go through the changes, we'll talk about how you could transition and maybe why you would want to. So I think a lot of people have the question, why should I change? Because Airtable is a great tool and we've been using it for a few years now, but we always think of new ways to do things and, that requires updates. So let's take a look at maybe why it would be really helpful to have a change. We have a lot of DNA data, and that's the main reason why we wanted to have something better than just a spreadsheet. So we need some flexibility though with the new ways we can look at DNA data. And in the past, we've had some duplicate data entry, even though we didn't want to have duplicate data entry, it just sort of crept in. And the big thing was that we have the new Ancestry Pro tools. And these are ways that we can see how much our shared matches share with each other. And so we've had a lot of questions. Do we treat this like a test taker situation and DNA match? How do we label that? Because right now, or in the old base, we had test taker and DNA match fields. And so it was pretty clear cut. You had a test taker, somebody who took the test for you or shared their results with you, and you were looking at their tests as if you were them. And then you could clearly see their matches. Well, Ancestry's Pro Tools, now you can look at shared matches, and I'll just mention we've always had this over at MyHeritage to see how much two matches share between each other. And you can also see that at GEDmatch. At Family Tree DNA, they have a matrix tool that also shows you that. And the 23andMe report can show some of that as well. So we've had this in other places, but since we use Ancestry a lot, probably our primary place of using our DNA. When this came out, it really made us stop and think, how are we going to record this? So here's just an example. My test taker is VP. He has shared his DNA results with me on Ancestry. And VP has a match, AR, and he also has a match, GS. And this is the shared match list. When he clicked on AR, we could see all, or when he clicked on GS, we could see all the matches that GS and VP share. And so we have a long list here. I'm just showing one. Before this, we would only know that AR shared with both of them. We would have no idea how AR was connected or how much DNA he shared. And now with the Pro Tools, we can see that AR is actually GS's second cousin, shares 67 centimorgans. And this might be information we want to add to our Airtable base because it's good information to see it. This is a fairly decent match. So our previous table, 2025, had just the tester and the DNA match. And that's all we could do. And it had the username and admin. And this was great. You might have an old, if you've been using anything before this one, you will have this data there. But now the 2026 Airtable base has got person one and then person two. So this could be your test taker, and in which case you would label this person, give them the role of a test taker. And it could be a DNA match, and you're showing the DNA between two matches. So this could be GS, and this could be AR, and they would both be labeled DNA matches. So then it makes it a little bit more clear about who these people are that we are showing shared data between. So why does this help? Well, we've talked a bit before about using these pro tools and shared matches because we have those mystery matches that have no help. They don't have a tree. Their name isn't very um, it might be a cryptic username, so we can't even look them up on Facebook or People Finder websites. But now we can look at their closest shared match, and it could be a parent, a child, a sibling, and those people might have a tree that identifies the family group. And I just had this happen yesterday where I had a shared match come in or a match come in and was not sure who this gentleman was, but looking at shared matches, all four of his children have tested, and a couple of them had really good trees. So it was very clear who this individual was. This is just such a huge boon to our research. Now, another change is the people table. So it is giving us a place to centralize family tree links. In the past, you could only add one link for a tree, and usually, it was on Ancestry or My Heritage, but now you can add a second link to a tree. And I love this because you might have a DNA match on Ancestry, and then you also found this ancestral line over on WikiTree that has some DNA information, or a family search, or maybe you want to just put both the trees right in there for this one person. And so now all of that can be just stored in the people table. And before, there were these places to put a tree URL in multiple places throughout the base. There, you could put it in DNA match details or kit access, and now it's just in one place. It's in the people place. And so that'll be helpful just to have one place for each person to put all this data. So in the people table, here's the first half and here's the second half, but you're still adding a lot of information about your people. So their name, birth year, if you figure it out, username, the date they added their role. So this would be like test taker or DNA match or ancestor if they're part of your, documentary research. And then it still has the place of putting the line of descent from the research subject, and then the link to profile and tree URL and tree URL number two. So now you have all this information right there in the people table. Now we also have lookup fields, and these are in the DNA match details table and kit access. So when I showed you the first screenshot of the DNA match details, you may have noticed all these little magnifying glasses right here. And this means that they are lookup fields. So basically, once you have entered in person one, let's saying you are using John as he's a test taker for you. And once you have put him in as test taker, every time you type in John, it will just pre-fill for you. You won't have to keep typing in that he is your test taker. And the same with DNA matches. Once you've given them the role, then it looks that up in the people table and you've got it, which will help with duplicate data entry because we don't want to do more of that than we ever have to. And then it also will show their tree. So if you've added a tree there on the people table, then it will show up in match details as well. So again, you don't have to copy and paste tree URLs over and over. It'll just be there. And then we have a little bit of changes to put to the people table again. And this is centralizing additional fields. So we used to have the admin on the actual match details table, and now admin is again in people table, which makes sense because, all the information about a person. And so the Ancestry admin would be the person who manages the test at Ancestry. The MyHeritage admin would be the person who manages the test at MyHeritage. And when you add an admin for a test, Airtable automatically creates reciprocal fields. Okay, so all right, so when you add an admin for a test, then Airtable will automatically create a reciprocal field. And those look like this little bunch of lines with an arrow. And so those are called Ancestry Kits Managed, MyHeritage Kits Managed. So it's pretty easy to see exactly what those are. And so those are in the people table for the person who's the admin, and it will automatically create a reciprocal field, meaning they'll be added. So if John is an admin, then he'll be added to that people table as an admin. And sometimes you will see that there are many people managing tests, like the same person for multiple family members. And so if you're seeing them and you can see all the different kits that they manage, you could sort by that, see what they manage. You could contact them and say, hey, I see you've tested a lot of people on the Smith line and I'd love to connect with you. So that'll be a nice feature to try to get all of those people in one place, all that information right there. Now, jumping over to the timeline table, and there really is only one change here, but it's a really good one. So the sortable date is now a formula. So one of the things that I really don't like to do is try to think of how to put things into the right format for my dates. I'm so used to writing, day, month, year, which is how we do it in genealogy, that it's annoying to me when it would be converted to something that's like month, day, year. But if we are trying to track multiple events that are, say, within the same month and the same year, we do want to have that data in there so we can sort by those records. So now you don't have to think about how to convert whatever's in your head, whatever date you've got. You could just type it in. So if it is something like March 1857, it will automatically just give it the first of the month. So 3/1/1857. So if you only enter a year, then the formula will convert it to January 1st of that year for sorting purposes. So you'll see this in the timeline table. It's right here under sortable date, and you can experiment with that. If you don't want to use it, you can always hide fields that you don't want to work with. But I thought I'd show you an example of how this would have come in very, very handy in my 14-day challenge project I just did in January. So as you can see, I had a run of court records. So many court records, all from 1773. I believe I even had some in 1774. And I just manually put these in here because I didn't want to take the time to figure out how to convert those. What I did do was use page numbers to make sure I had them all in order, but this will be just so very helpful as we are trying to do a run. Other instances might be newspaper articles. Sometimes you'll get the same event in a newspaper over and over and over, like for 3 months in a row, something like that. You'll figure out when to use it, but I think this will be a great way to take care of these instances. So what stayed the same in Airtable? Well, locations, the fans table, citation templates, shared centimorgans, surnames, and segments all stayed just the same. So it's not like there's a lot to learn, but if you're brand new, then you are very lucky because you just get to learn the brand new template. So making the transition, this is the question we always get, and it's the question I ask myself. There's a new template. I've got old bases. Do I want to transfer over? Well, whenever I start a new research project, I do like to use the most recent base because it does streamline all my research. So if you're just getting started with a new project, you could just start out again with 2026 base and enjoy that. I have done things like put a label on old bases, like my Weatherford research old. It had a lot of things in it I wasn't going to need for the next project, and I decided I didn't want to add to it. So I just started a new base and put the date that I was working on it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having multiple bases for research projects. You just want to remember that you've got those. And then if you do decide that you want to migrate and go to this new base, you'll have to move your tree URLs from the DNA match tables details table to the people table. So you just have to move it to a new place, but this is a good chance to review and update any outdated links because sometimes those links do go out. Um, and they may not be right. And then if you do want to get an older base into the new one, and one of the things that you can do is get the number of columns lined up with the new base. So you would need to add some columns in your match details for some of the new fields. You'd need to add those and just leave them blank. And then once they come in, you can start populating those. So I would recommend that you take two or three lines at a time, rows at a time, and experiment with copying and pasting and making sure things are right. If you don't have a lot of data in an old research log, you could just start new. It just depends on what you're working with. So if you are really tech savvy and you've used Airtable a lot, you maybe would want to just change your log and update it. So there is a URL here, updates and change logs, that you can go to and see if you want to do the updates yourself. Maybe it's a really long table and it would be worthwhile for you to try to figure it out and adjust your old table. So hopefully everybody will have some fun, learning about the new um, Airtable base.